Welcome to Chai After Dark, everyone. I'm Shabnam, and I'm here with my co-host, as usual, Huma Qureshi. And today we have a very special guest, Imran J, the director of Mustache, and we are going to be discussing all things the Mustache movie. Huma, I'm going to turn it over to you to give a more complete introduction of Imran.
Okay, thank you, Shabnam. Hi, everybody. Like Shabnam said, we have Imran J here today, who wrote and directed the movie Mustache, which premiered at the South by Southwest Festival, which really, you guys need to say that 3 times fast. I've rehearsed that a lot, in 2023, and is now available on all digital platforms for rent or purchase. I believe it came out the same release day of another small film in the theaters, but Mustache is going to kick ass. So, A Mustache features Ilyas, a 13-year-old Pakistani American Muslim boy growing up in Northern California who is forced to leave his Islamic school, which he has been enrolled in for all of his life, and transition to an American public school. And this transition process is led both figuratively and symbolically by the development of a prepubescent mustache, which becomes Ilyas's nemesis in a way. The movie stars I'm really bad at pronunciation.
Atharv Verma,
Atharv Verma, Rizwan Manji, who actually I know from the television show The Magicians, which I don't know if anybody watched it, but he was great on that. Pakistani Canadian actress and singer Meesha Shafi, and Alicia Silverstone, and I believe Hasan Minhaj also has a cameo. And Hasan Minhaj, Rami Youssef, and Riz Ahmed also executive produced this movie, correct?
Yeah,
so
that's all correct.
So, okay, now that the intro is over, I did want to let the listeners know that this is not going to be a recap in the traditional sense, but there will be spoilers ahead. So if you have not seen the movie, please go and watch it and then come back and listen to our podcast discussion. That's your warning.
So Imran, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the casting. How involved and how deep was your role in the casting? Because it's a fabulous cast. I think everybody was super well cast. I sort of recognize visual vibes of some of the characters being from the Bay Area. So tell me about that.
Yeah, the movie has a lot of characters in it. There's a lot of teenage parts, and it's hard to find, especially when you're looking for ethnically specific casting. You are in a smaller pool to find actors, and so especially for the lead and then lead character siblings and like kids at school and all, like, so there was a big search for the lead in both America and in Canada. And so yeah, I was really involved with all of that. I also did like a social media campaign to also get additional submissions for the lead of the film. And so there was like a multi-pronged approach, but there was a lot of kids in the system, a lot of kids who had been acting as child actors. And so finding the lead was just a matter of going through and kind of the regular process. It was COVID during that time, so like this is 2021, so we're still kind of in COVID time. So everything was mostly over Zoom. And finding Atharv was really interesting because he just had this like emotional intelligence and sort of like an ability to express emotion in a way that I didn't see in other kids. And it really made it clear after we had seen a ton of kids that he had like kind of real ability to exist in a scene or an emotion and kind of like embody it. And that wasn't something that I had to like direct him towards. I think he had this like natural ability to interpret a scene and understand like, okay, this character's going through this right now, and then kind of like feel that. And that's a special talent, especially for somebody who's 13. Atharv was 13 at the time that we shot the movie. So then Rizwan Manji was cast, and we auditioned and met with a lot of actors who would play the dad in the movie. And Rizwan Manji just was able to balance like the comedy and the drama in a really interesting way that also kind of fun because he hasn't been in a lot of things where he's had to balance comedy and drama in the same way. And so I think he was really excited about that kind of challenge, playing a more dramatic role. And I was excited about him trying to do that, and he has like quite a lot of range as an actor, and not every role allows for him to play with that range. And so I think Mustache was a really cool opportunity, and I think he knocked it out of the park, and it was like amazing to watch on set to see him work. And then with Meesha Shafi, who plays Ilyas's mom in the movie, we were struggling also to find who could play this character. You know, you're trying to cast as accurately as possible, so you're trying to find Pakistani actors. And that's tough. It's just really hard. And it's not just finding actors. I think that's part of it, but it's also simple things like availability and whether or not you can get a visa done in time, and things like that start coming into play. So like even there were Pakistani actors like in Pakistan that we were talking to for some of these roles, but some of those actors are working all the time, and you're just this weird, you know, American film that, you know, it's not their normal thing to do. So they may have a TV show or something in Pakistan that they're doing for the next couple of months, and they don't want to really put that on hold to take a chance on some small movie in America. Like, so even if you do find somebody, you know, logistically it might not work out. And for whatever reason, the stars aligned with Meesha Shafi, who honestly was like my favorite. She auditioned for the film, like she sent a tape, and it was really, really good. And it wasn't even just like me having to advocate for her. The producing team also really liked her, and they just thought she had like a special something, especially when you're trying to make like the parents in the film unique and stand out, and not just be kind of generic, you know, Desi parents. And so she had extra layers, and people could see that even just in her audition. So we were lucky that she was available to be in the film. And then there's casting kids again. Most of those kids like are local in Toronto where we shot the film.
Oh, nice.
And so we're casting from, you know, local talent. Again, logistically, when you're making a film on the budget that we had, can we fly every actor from wherever they live to be in the film? The answer is no, because if they have a smaller part, then it's tricky to justify the budget to be like, okay. And every movie and TV show does this. They have something called local hires, where, you know, you want to hire locally because you cut down on a lot of costs associated with bringing somebody in. Like Atharv is from North Carolina, so, you know, we brought him in. And then there's some other people, like Rizwan Manji lives in Los Angeles normally. But most of the other actors were found locally in Toronto. And I think that was really cool.
Like what you're saying about like the stars aligning in terms of both the script and the actors that you got to embody these roles. I think the casting was spot on, and I'm glad that that everything was able to align, because Shabnam and I, when we were talking about the movie earlier, one thing that I was really struck by was that no character was a caricature. Like you touch a little bit upon stereotypes which have been exhibited in the past in like Desi or Muslim like movies, right? Like we all fall into those stereotypes and they exist for a reason. But with each character, even a very minor character in this movie, your script and then the actors, they brought a vulnerability and layers to it. And it was done just very beautifully.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying
No, yeah, I did like a little character study almost on each, like from the dad to Ilyas himself, to the mom, to Awesome, to the character of Awesome. And you know, I wanted to commend you on that no character fell into a stereotype 100%. You know, even someone like an Awesome, where you're kind of like, oh, I hate this guy. In the beginning, I'm like, when I was taking notes, like, oh, he's that all around perfect. Dude that every
good at code switching.
Good at code switching, but then even he, in the end, you gave him that vulnerability, and at the end of the day, he's a 17-year-old kid who's just trying to figure it out, right?
That was important to me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite simple from my point of view, and that is to try to dive in to characters and really try to be honest. I think if you approach any character, you know, whether they're Desi, whether they're, you know, white American, whatever, like any character, if you approach them with like honesty and like trying to get to who they are and what motivates them, and I think ultimately you will like probably subvert some expectation in terms of what people expect to see on screen with that character. You know, you can stop at like a superficial level, and I think that's when you get like sort of stereotypes. But if you just like keep digging, okay, but like what's going on with them? What else is happening in their lives that maybe it isn't even in the movie, but is it could inform what's happening in this moment in the story. And then when you're writing the movie from that point of view, I think you can like uncover things that even just small details that once you know that about the character, it can add. Especially with the parents, like we don't get like a big backstory with the parents. We don't get, but we get
No.
enough of like,
Yes, you
you
can.
know,
Yeah.
what their lives might have been like before, what kind of struggles they had, like with Hamid, Rizwan Manji's character, like what's going on with his work life, this like business venture that he's doing. Like you're just getting enough of it to know, like, okay, this person's shouldering a lot. You understand him.
Yeah.
So I think it's like digging deeper into a character to find details that then color the rest of who they are.
Yeah.
And I think
And
Yeah.
yeah.
that's like
You
I
did
think
it
yeah.
remarkably.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that
No,
came
like because
through.
I remember the scene with Hamid, the dad, right?
Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
it's towards the end where he falls and his
Hmm.
toupee flies
Yeah,
backwards, and
yeah.
you could have played that for laughs, but it's almost heartbreaking. And like I just like I was like, I could see someone laughing at it. I hope they wouldn't, because it's like you see this
All
patriarch.
kind of reactions happen at that moment. I think some
It
there's
was
like a gasp in like the theater.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a
There's
gasp, and
like
then oh,
yeah, there's like a lot. But yeah, ultimately people are taken aback by because you see the relation between like Ilyas's
mhm,
insecurity and his father's insecurity, and there's just this like interesting connection that forms there that I think for
Yeah.
audiences that they like take it in a really interesting way.
like
But
a full
Yeah.
circle
yeah, yeah,
almost,
yeah.
right, from
Yeah.
father to son, and then, but just also the falling of that patriarch, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I think from
Yeah.
like that Muslim South Asian aspect, we in our culture we put our parents like
Hmm.
on a pedestal, and then and every child has to go through this at some point where
That
you're
they're
going to have to take
vulnerable
them down.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that they're vulnerable too. And I mean, I thought that scene was a little heartbreaking, to be honest,
Yeah.
because you just never want to see a parent shamed like that, no matter how
Yeah,
stressful
yeah,
they
yeah,
are,
yeah, yeah. I think
right?
that's what he experiences and
And you
uh
did a
It
really good
was
job of, yeah.
it was also interesting with Asia's backstory of like her being a painter and how
Yeah.
she gave some of that up, and as you grow older, you see your parents as full people, and you forget that like maybe they were doing other things before they were a mom, or they had like hopes and dreams and things like that. So that was, cool to see, because I think also a Western audience doesn't think about that about immigrant women as much either,
mhm.
so
Yeah, I mean, and some of that is just based on my life and my parents. Like my mom was a painter, and a lot of the paintings growing up in our house were the ones that she did. And so it was just something like that, again, like that's just diving deeper in and just pulling out like what
Hmm.
feels true to me,
yeah.
and based on my own life and putting that in. And at the beginning of the writing process, it was something I was a little more afraid of doing, like how close to like my life should this be, and or should it be
That's
more
what I was going to ask you.
and
Yeah.
it but the more you kind of pull from your life in the writing process, I think it just created more honesty and more
Hmm.
um detail and truth that wouldn't be there. And then when you're on set and you're directing all of these elements and these scenes and things, you just have like a touchstone for it that allows you to handle the moments that you wouldn't have if you don't have like a personal connection to it. I think personal connection is really important, like as a
It is,
director and as a
Yeah.
writer. And so I think trying to find personal places where I could bring in my personal connection was really helpful to make things feel more real. Even if that's not everybody's experience, I think people connect with something that feels like it has substance behind it.
Also, it's just a way to give these characters so much more depth, and I think people can relate to that, whether
Hmm.
it's the details are different in
Yeah.
their own life, but like the depth of the character is really cool to see.
And you weren't
Yeah.
afraid to go, and you did it respectfully, in a not too garish way, but the taboo. I mean, the movie starts off with dreams of water. you
Oh,
know?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Like,
I
I mean, that was such a stimulus of discussion for some of our like mom groups, like having that, because the
yeah.
minute that I was like, he's 13 years old, and that means no one's talked to him about puberty yet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
Which
is
was
such,
like kind of our experience growing up. I mean,
yeah,
where
yeah.
nobody really talked about these things. But again, I think so like that scene evolved, like that specific scene was something else. There was a different kind of joke there before. But that specific moment, I mean, it is based on a real thing that happened when I was in Islamic school. The circumstances like slightly different, but like effectively it was the same thing. It was like somebody asking a question in class that like then led to the teacher just being like, oh, just, ask your parents about that. And so and so it was like a real thing that happened, not to me, it was like to actually like my best friend actually. But
Was he okay with you borrowing his experience for the movie?
I think I don't, I should ask him more
eh.
properly. He saw the movie he came to watch it at South by Southwest, and then he just like instantly was like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. But I'm kind of, I feel like I'm taking the shame for it in a way, because I'm saying
Well,
more like it happened to me.
Right.
So,
Well, everyone, it's like everyone thinks about it as an autobiographical movie. And yeah, again, Shebnam and I were like, how much is this his story? Like, did this specifically happen to him?
there are moments for sure that are like, oh, that's from my life. That's from my life. But then like overall, the story is a fictional story. Like these events didn't happen exactly, or even most of them at all. But the truth of the situations is there, which is like, I did go from an Islamic school to a public school. I did do theater in high school. Like the bedrock of the story are all based in places and things and people that absolutely happened, like that I absolutely experienced. And then kind of like what the character's going through was like a way for me to illustrate like what all of that felt like to me. The plot is not necessarily a documentary, but if I'm using like a plot element to even using genre, like the coming of age genre, to do like high school hijinks type stuff, then is it being employed to arrive at a truth that feels very real to me? Like, for example, when I went to public high school, I remember having very strong feelings about like wanting to go back to Islamic school, because it was such a jarring experience for me to like do that. And that feeling I know is real and true, because I lived that experience. And so then I externalized that in like comedic and kind of maybe absurd ways. Like I had a North Star, if that makes sense, of like, okay, but these have to be like real feelings I had, because that would, otherwise I don't know why I'm making this movie, basically.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel as authentic. And then if you don't have authenticity and honesty, it's not going to hit as hard as probably this movie in every aspect. I think there's a little bit for even non-Muslim, non-South Asians, for someone to identify with, whether it's that weird, sensitive child who comes into his own, like when Ilyas finds the acting class. In my mind, I was like, oh, he's a theater kid. That's why. He's not weird. It was like, he's a theater kid, right? So
one of the things that was really cool that I enjoyed was the montage. Every time he would feel like anxious, the montage of like his hair growing, and I can't like fully describe it other than that. Like it was so,
it's like anxiety flash cuts.
Anxiety flash cuts. It was so good.
It was good,
right?
Yeah, I felt like, Imran, you were taking like a sci-fi element almost, with like the
opening
up close shots of of the mustache, almost as like this alien invader.
That was kind of intentional. Like especially with the opening, it was like we had a different plan for what the opening shot of the movie would be. It was actually going to be like, so we used a microscope lens. Essentially, you can use it like if you wanted to photograph the wing of a fly, you would use a microscope lens. It's like extremely long and thin, and you can target it at things. And we were like, we did tests, and we're gonna use this to like shoot his mustache, and it'll be like so large. I mean, it'll be like we'll be like right there. And then the idea of the shot was we're gonna start on like an individual hair, or even closer, and then pull out to reveal like most of his face.
Okay.
So that was the opening shot of the movie, like in the script. But when we did the tests on that, we realized, oh, this is kind of just like a VFX shot, because there is no human way possible that a person can pull focus on it. It's like it's just a technical thing of like you have to be able. So you have somebody pulling focus, and there would be no way for them to keep that image in focus, like as we like pulled the camera back.
Yeah.
I see.
So it just was like we did it a few times, and we're like, oh, we're not going to get this. So part of the creative process is like you kind of see what's working and what's not, and then you're like, okay, well, what else could we do here? We have this microscope lens, we have this whole setup. And so then we did the same idea, like, where are we? We don't even know where we are. Is this like an alien planet? And then you realize you're on a kid's face. So that same idea is there, but in a different way. Like we just shot all these different shots using the microscope lens and using like whatever tools we had. and then that material ended up getting used for his like anxiety flash cuts, which was just that's
Yes.
all that stuff was shot just for like the opening of the film, and then we
Yeah.
used it to kind of highlight kind of what he's thinking and feeling. And so I think it was like we were just like very nimble in the creative process of like, okay, well, what's interesting and cool, and if something's not really working, like what else can we pivot to that's interesting and still is supporting the story and supporting this character and getting us in the mind of this character. And so the opening was really interesting because, and then we didn't really know we were going to use those shots later like that. That happened in the edit. Like it was an experiment in the edit that people were like, wow, that's awesome, let's just do that. And then
So awesome.
so it's like there's this interesting thing that happens in the creative process where you have like you have a vision for where you're trying to go, and as you move through the process, things open up and you have to kind of just adapt and be like really flexible, actually, and be open, because there can be an inclination sometimes with creative work where you use this excuse to not do something, which is that, oh, well, that's not what I meant it to be. Or but I wanted it to be X, or or my original intention was Y. But actually, if you throw all that out and you don't have any kind of conceptions of what it should be or shouldn't be, then I think it's easier to pivot like that and be like, oh, you know what? This is telling the story better. Let's do this. Even though I shot these shots for some other intention. Like that kind of, I think that's a lesson I learned through making this film, is just how valuable being flexible. The only thing you shouldn't be flexible on is the overall vision of the film. Like you need a direction to go into, because if you don't have a direction overall of like, what is this film intending to achieve on a larger level, then I think you're directionless, and like you'll just keep changing the thing and you'll never get anywhere. But as long as like, okay, I'm telling this story about this kid and it's about him learning to accept himself, and like these bigger like North Stars are set in place in terms of vision, then all of these ways of getting there should be really flexible. Like, okay, but what if it's this? What if it's that? What if we cut this scene? What if we add this moment? And then you can kind of find your way to the best version of it. I think that's kind of how I approached it. Like sometimes a bummer to lose stuff, but then you sit back and you're like, well, the movie's better now. So it's a process.
It becomes like a living, breathing thing that you bring it together, and you didn't lose focus of the overarching theme, which is because
it actually enhanced it, because I feel like it's a very relatable way of imagining discomfort. Like when you're a teenager, a tween, if someone says something to you and you feel awkward, you start thinking like, what's my shirt doing? What's my hair doing? It's so very relatable. So it was I think amazing.
In a way, it's like there's an element of it where it's kind of like a live action Inside Out. If you've seen like Pixar movies, like it kind of had like, it's like being in the mind of like a teenager or a preteen, like a whole thing that like emotions are so heightened that it's hard to portray that without a device that can get you in the mind of that type of character. And so I think it really worked as like a way to access his like inner world. Like the opening of the film kind of sets up that imagery, and so when you see it later, it's like a callback to the opening of the film. So it kind of works. It's like interesting, but it wasn't. Again, it was like in the edit we figured that out, and which is interesting because it feels like such a like integral part of the movie when you watch it.
It does. And actually, when you first with that opening scene, I was like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. And is this going to be too much of that almost, right? Because it's like, I want like a heartwarming story.
It's off-putting.
Which is, it's meant to be, right? His mustache to him is off-putting. And so seeing that, like, I felt like you brought so many different elements of different film genres, right? Like there was a little bit of like Napoleon Dynamite towards the end when he does the the mosque performance.
What
is this, right? But it's also a coming of age movie. Then there's like those heartwarming moments, and then there's the alien invasion of the mustache, and like that whole Inside Out. I totally see what you're talking about. Like you pulled in several different, in my opinion, film genres, and you did an amazing job, like very effectively.
Thanks.
I don't know, was that intentional or?
It's really interesting that you point that out because that was something I thought about through the whole, from the script to production and then even in the edit. I had an impulse with this film to and maybe it's based on a lot of the directors I really like. I mean, I like kind of the masters to me, like, you know, growing up, like 90s Spielberg, and there's like a lot of really great directors that when you watch their films, especially like Bong Joon-ho or Scorsese, there is no genre actually. So like you could go through Goodfellas and probably find every single device available,
Right.
like every type of stylistic choice available in cinema is probably employed at one point or another in Goodfellas, like just that one movie. The more I have been studying film like over the years, I've kind of felt like the sometimes the best movies are serving emotion, and they're serving characters and situations, and whatever that character, situation, or emotion is for that particular scene, that's what that scene should feel like, and how it should be shot, and how it should be edited, and if it's like a character kind of spinning out of control and losing their mind, the style of that scene needs to reflect that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there is like probably there is something about the overall like style of a movie that you need to maybe think about. But I actually kind of threw that out, and I was just like, other
Yeah.
people point out if something's too weird or something. Like I make strong choices in every scene. Like, okay, this is the point of view of this scene. This scene's gonna be one shot, and it's gonna be this moving master. Like just making bold decisions that are to tell that moment of the story the best way I can. Then you free yourself from that overall like, oh, are these elements not going to all come together? Because
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, I know this moment is going to be really strong if I approach it with like a vision for this moment, and then I'll just see how it all comes together. But I think
No, yeah.
if everything feels like it has a vision behind it in the movie, then like you get something at the end of it that feels like there was a real like vision behind the whole film. Whereas
Yeah,
if
because
yeah, like I just think you can
Yeah.
take the teeth off. You can take all the edges off something because you're like, oh well, does this match with something else we're going
Right,
to or
right.
something? But I think when you look at really really great like masterwork film, like, even like Paul Thomas Anderson films or like really really high level films, like I don't think they're even operating in genre. There's no genre. It's just like
No,
this is what's will make this scene really good, so we're gonna do that. And
you
then
approach it as a film.
there's something about tracking actors through an entire movie. I think that's really important. I think directors definitely need to be doing that. Like in my case, it's Ilyas, like where is he in his journey for any particular scene, and is it kind of, are we
Yeah.
tracking that? Do we know where he's at? What's going on? And for sure that has to be there. You can't just do random stuff in random scenes. But I think like
Yeah.
your visual approach and even the editing and all that, I'm like, okay, well, this is a funny scene. Let's make it funny. Or this is like
Yeah.
a dramatic scene. Like we need to make this thing. We need to feel this thing. And all my creative decisions are stemming from that, and not like oh well, I'm trying to make my movie like Edge of 17 or some other movie,
Right.
and now does this scene feel like that movie? It's like who cares, you know? Like I think this scene has to be true to this movie or this
Yeah,
character.
to,
Yeah,
to what it is right there.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
would say, Imran, you do a really good job of, and I don't mean to criticize other movies s- exactly, but sometimes I feel like when we go into the South Asian field or a Muslim field, like the movies, like the coming of age movies, or I'm going to make a movie based around Islamic themes, sometimes I feel like in some media, right, we lose the art of you're still making a film,
Hmm.
right? Like don't get so caught up in the themes that you forget that this should still be a piece of
Or like message versus storytelling.
message versus
Yes.
storytelling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's so much like and I feel like, as there's more opportunities given to South Asian and Muslim creators, they're getting better at the craft of it.
Uh-huh.
This movie, which I can see why it won the award, because it's it's a well crafted movie. It's not just the
Thank you.
theme is so strong, and the
Yeah.
themes are, and I would like to talk a little bit about the themes too.
Yeah.
But it's a good piece of film, right? Like that,
Yeah.
and
I
that is
appreciate
what's
you
going to
saying
stand the
that.
test of time.
Yeah. Like message versus storytelling, and like sometimes like there's movies that are like, well, this movie exists because it has a good message behind it, but the storytelling may not be there. And then there's like master storytellers that sometimes don't have anything to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
And that
yeah,
happens too, where you're like, okay, you did a really, like, this is an amazing movie because you told this story so well, and the craft is so high, But then when you think about what it's about, you're like, oh, doesn't have much to say about humanity or about really anything. It's just a really well made like piece of like storytelling. And so I think there's stuff that's both. I think the best stuff is both. The best like
best stuff is both. The best stuff is
because
both.
it has something to say. It has a point of view, and it's also told really well. And like so, that's like my hope with everything that I make is that it is both that it has something to say, and also is told the best way that it can be. And so that's just my like, and I don't know. That's like you never know with a movie while you're making it if it'll make sense or work. All you can do is work on. You can just work really hard on the script and make sure to do a lot of drafts, and then try to try to make the best movie you can with the resources that you can, and then hope that like it comes together. But in this situation, I think, and you know, there is a message about like sort of self-acceptance through a very particular like Muslim American Pakistani lens, and I think is really something that's really important to me, and like my own personal journey through being my own journey to becoming an artist and becoming a filmmaker is mirrored in the film, and based on my life. So that to me is really important, and that's why I wanted to make this film to begin with. And so I think that's like in the DNA of it, is that impulse and that what I kind of want to say about that. But then at the same time, you're just trying to make the best movie you can. And I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for like other films, but it's possible that people use message as like a crutch so that they don't have to rewrite the script as many times, and they can just be like, well, people are going to connect with this because of a message.
I feel like it's also maybe, young Muslim creators, South Asian creators, people of color in general, like maybe we're not given the resources to hone the craft as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Accessibility, right? Like you joined a theater class as a high school student. A lot of people don't, because
and I got to go to film school, and that's
in film school, right?
So,
like so those are things
really
that maybe where, and that's what I do feel that I'm a little bit older than both of you, that the earlier films that contain more message, you can see the change in the craft building, right? As I think there's more training and accessibility, and like now you are competing on a level field. It's not just my story is important, it's how is my story told. I'm gonna actually focus on that too.
One of the characters that kind of helped develop the self-acceptance piece, as a supporting character to Ilyas, was Arun. I thought Arun was really interesting because, like in the beginning, he kind of was like, wanted to hang out with the older kids instead of Arun, right? And then all of a sudden Arun shows up at the party, and I was like, is this real, or is it like he's imagining that Arun is there? I wasn't quite sure, but I think he was really there. And that was interesting as well, because it's just kind of piling on to Ilyas's discomfort that then leads to acceptance later. But that was a really cool, like you said, kind of carrying that character arc through of Arun.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought like Arun was like, he's actually really comfortable being himself, and he doesn't have any of the same kind of, like, even when he first meets Ilyas and he's just like, do you want to be friends? Like, he just doesn't have the same kind of like fear of what other people think that Ilyas has, and he's comfortable being himself. And then like in that moment, he's celebrated for being himself in a way that's like confusing almost to Ilyas, where he can't imagine that could work. And so I think it's part of that journey for him to see that there's another way to be, essentially.
There's another, and like this, and this is Imran, like going back to like your film touching upon so many aspects of this journey that so many of us go, and doing it really briefly, but packing a punch, because the character with Arun, he's much more of an immigrant, like he's first gen versus Ilyas, who's second gen, and there is a tension in our communities between first gen and second gen, right? Like Ilyas,
I mean, at that age, you're like, oh my god, like I just want to fit in. I just
want to fit in,
And this is good. If I'm friends with this person, they're gonna think that I'm also an immigrant or what. Like
and I have an accent, and right, and so like again, like in very small ways, you were able to touch upon so many different aspects of like growing up as an immigrant or as a child of immigrants, being different in this society. And it's not like you delved into like what is the relationship between first gen versus second gen. You touched upon it, and it packed a punch. And then as a woman, I would say that a lot of like movies are made, as more South Asians are breaking into this not maybe South Asian friendly industry. A lot of it has been male dominated. For various reasons, cultural, whatever, right? I commend you on being able to show the female perspective, like giving us a glimpse of it. Again, I was talking to Shabnam. He's going through his own mustache journey, and then he walks into his sister who's got the bleach, and every woman I can tell you it was like, that was me. Like so that's what I'm saying. In very small ways, you were able to just touch on multiple aspects of the second gen immigrant experience.
Thank you for saying that.
It was that. I mean, when I saw that bleach scene, I went back to the smell of the bleach. I was like, oh my god, Jolene, that turquoise box and everything, and just like the the character arc of the mom, awesome dad, they all pack a punch without being overt or obvious in your face. So
thank you. I mean, that's maybe just my kind of sensibilities of like the kinds of things that I like and the way I thought about, I guess, peppering in characters into the movie that, like in another movie, that maybe each of those characters could have their own movie.
Could
but
be their
in
own
this
movie,
it's from Ilyas's point of view, and so he's only getting those glimpses, but they all kind of mean something even for himself, because they're either reflections on the themes of the film, or they're like opposites to him. Like I see him and Asim as kind of similar, actually. Like if you're trying to fit in, you're either, especially in like a code switching environment, you're either going to be weird in all situations, or you're going to just change your personality completely to depending on where you are, and like that's how you survive. And so I think him and Asim are not that different, actually. It's just he has just been like, okay, well, I'm going to have like a school life, and I'm going to have like a home, like community life, and they're just going to be different.
Yeah, and we all have that. We all
have
right? Yeah, and again, that speaks to another aspect of this experience, that we have different faces, different struggles, but all kind of the same in different ways. So
Homa, you brought up something earlier about how there's this point in the movie where Ilyas's sister's character tells him, don't mess this up for me, because then I might not be able to go away to college. Right. And that's kind of relatable. Homa, do you want to expand on that? I know that was kind of your thoughts.
Like again, kind of like, being able to just shine a little window into the female experience, right? When she says that, I was like, what the heck, right? She's the older sister, correct? I mean, she's a lot taller than him. And I'm like, even though she's the elder sister, her career trajectory, her academic trajectory is based now on the younger brother's behavior. And how true has that been for so many daughters of immigrants, that there's almost like this helplessness. And again, it's not the focus of the movie. It's just a window shining into like different aspects of characters surrounding Ilyas. And again, I was just struck by that. And like that one sentence. And it's like,
that's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you pick up on. Yeah, but I think that's also true in families like this, where if there's like one scandal, it can like change everybody's lives.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Now nobody is going on road trips anymore because somebody went on a road trip one time and something bad happened, or they did something bad, and now so if one of the kids does something that ruins the parents' perception of what going to like public school is, or going to like college is, or whatever, then that will change the decision making in that family henceforward. I think that's something people can identify with, especially in like an immigrant household, because that they only have so many data points. Like they're in a new, like the parents are in a new environment. So if they see like, oh my God, we put our kid in public school, and then he is now like doing drugs. That's going to be like, okay, well, none of these kids are going to like, they're going to stay home for college. They're going, that mindset I feel like is very real. Because there's a lot of fear about what putting your kids in like a non-Muslim environment may be like, in general. And then for daughters, it's even more. And also going away to college at that time was a little like, is that okay?
Right.
Even I would
Right.
say for both, but way more for daughters. Because
Yeah.
even for me, I don't think there was like an option where I like went out of state. It
Well,
was
yeah.
Oh
like,
no.
yeah,
Yeah.
No,
it
no, no,
wasn't
no.
like a version of
Yeah.
my. I didn't even apply to anything out of state.
No.
Right.
It was like I would have had to campaign for that for like a year. That I
Yeah.
want to go to
Mm.
like New York for college or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it wouldn't
And
have been
even
just a casual like let's just apply to
yeah.
like why all the good
No.
schools are drivable. Why would you need to
Right.
go like go you need to get into Berkeley. You need to whatever
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
growing up in the Bay Area it was like why would you leave your parents to
No,
go
Right.
exactly.
so
Like,
far away. Like it wasn't like a reasonable thing for anyone. And then if you're a girl, that's like a whole other like that would be
oh,
like a
Right.
whole other
yeah.
thing. Like, and I
Yeah.
think that was pretty real at that time. Like I think obviously
Hmm.
probably now it's different, but at that time it was like
Was
if
very
one of the
much.
kids does something bad,
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
change what the rules are for like Sadia, the older sister, going to college or like whatever.
Right.
So I felt like that was real to me. So
I think
Yeah,
it was real for
definitely.
everyone. I born and raised in Sacramento, and
yeah,
Davis was my option.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's where I was in college. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
But that's
uh,
because it's drivable.
oh, it's driving. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't live on campus. I drove
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
Davis.
yeah,
to
I
Davis.
have friends who could have gone to better schools, but chose to stay closer to where their parents live. I think that's a very Desi thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if a college is only a little bit better, like you're gonna probably just choose to live locally.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's real for at least our generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And uh, what scene, if you don't mind me asking, and you can say no, Homa, I don't want to answer this, was the most like just this happened to me in my real life, and I cut it and I dropped it right into the
Oh,
movie.
that's a good question. There's a lot of little moments in the film that are exactly things that happened to me.
We
I
want
think
a moment that's going to pack the most punch, where our listeners are going to be like, "Oh yeah, Die After Dark got that out of him. Come give us
You got the
um,
something,
scoop.
right?"
Yeah.
like an
No.
We got the
exclusive.
scoop.
You want
Yeah,
an exclusive?
we want an
Um,
Yeah.
exclusive. Yeah.
uh, um, hold on, let me think for a second. Kind of already said one of them,
Hmm.
um, but uh, well, yeah. So like the like wet dream thing did that was what in real life it was like somebody asked. So that we talked about that, but that is like a real like something that happened in Islamic school. The other
To
thing
to
that's
your best
real.
friend.
Yeah, yeah, but it happened to my friend. And then well, like the Arun character, actually, it's written exactly how it happened. Where literally it was like the first couple of days of school, and there was a kid who was very similar to Arun, who just was like brand new.
Hmm.
In real life, he was from Kashmir, and he was just
Okay.
brand new, and he was just like, "Oh, do you want to be friends?" That moment always stuck in my head. I felt like it was a weird thing to ask somebody,
Yeah.
but I guess it's not. But at the time, I didn't know how to.
It's
We never
it's
we
yeah.
became more friends later. Actually, like we were kind of friends then, and then we became friends later. And then he became like really cool. And then like all of a sudden, I found myself later in high school. He was like bullying me.
Oh my God. That's
Not bullying me, like he would tease me and stuff because he became cool. Like
He became
he
the
was
cool
like
guy. Yeah, yeah,
he was like brand new to America. He had just
that's so
moved from
funny.
Kashmir like that summer, and then
That's hilarious.
he was very like shy. And then
yeah,
Yeah.
by junior year, by senior year, he was like really cool. And then I remember being like, "How did this happen? Like now I'm
Yeah.
being like teased by this person." So I
That's so
think that
funny.
was like something that always stuck in my head. We actually went to college together too, and he got even cooler in college. But but anyway, that's nothing to do. But I just always
but
thought that was really interesting that like somebody who is kind of like that and then like becomes like cool, and that's kind of what happens to
yeah.
Arun. But
Yeah.
Goes to the
Yeah.
power of self confidence, right?
I
Yeah.
that's like a real thing that literal conversation happened to me. The
Can I just say, like,
yeah.
that is so interesting, this point about Arun, right? And part of it I feel maybe comes from the fact that all of us, I think, are from families who immigrated early on in the South Asian like 1960s 70s wave of immigration, whereas maybe people that came a little later, they weren't as uncomfortable because there was more of us. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if like that plays into that, you know, like he saw you and he was like, we should be friends, and like I
Yeah.
could be friends with this guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Like we're both
as
Daisy,
opposed
like
to
we should be friends, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, like as opposed to like, especially when my older siblings were going to elementary school and stuff, they were like the only brown kid or like one of two,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah.
Like you're trying to like distance yourself from that identity at that age because you want to fit in, and it's a different, that's a different point of view.
Whereas
Yeah,
he
like
comes in and it's already cushioned because there's already a brown kid who's broken
Yeah.
the barrier. So
No,
he's
that's
kind of
true.
he's kind of latching on, and the kid who's being latched on. It's an interesting because you almost feel guilty, like you feel bad for Arun, and then you also really identify strongly with Ilyas because who hasn't been in that position where you're kind of like, oh gosh, like you're gonna bring down my cool factor. But
Yes.
I'm a jerk for thinking like that because
Yeah.
Arun's a really nice kid.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
I guess, like I was saying earlier, you know, authentic self-confidence really gets you far. So
Yeah, it does.
you can have a thick accent, you can be straight from the motherland, and if you are secure in yourself, you're gonna go far, right?
People
That's
will
a
be
good
like,
lesson
"Oh,
to
that
learn.
person's cool." Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
good
for
lesson to
sure.
learn.
Did the scene at the end, like, did the awesome character ever really let you be part of his speech? Did you do some kind of performance like that?
You know, okay, so what that's based on is like, no, like that's fictional. What that's inspired by is at the mosque they would have like a youth iftar or like some kind of like youth based event. They would do skits, like they would, and the skits would be like, I don't know, just poking fun at Muslim American experience, I guess, or like Desi experience. And so they would do these skits, and I just remember always having ideas that I wanted to do. And in retrospect, they wouldn't have gone well at all. Like just weird performance art type stuff, or like almost like Andy Kaufman type stuff. Because I was like really, when I was in high school, I was like really into Andy Kaufman. So I was like always thinking about things like that. And in the movie, I was like, oh, what if he like did something like that? And like, how would people react? They'd be like, what is this? Like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question for you, Imran. I have a question because this scene resonated with me very strongly, and I'll tell you in a minute. The scene where Ilyas punches the kid for being teased about his mustache. Did that happen?
Yeah. So I have a lot of experiences with kind of like both sides of those kind of situations where either I was kind of more the bully or I was the, you know, object of the bullying. And so I kind of drew from a lot of that where in my real life it wasn't because of the mustache, but there were a lot of things that people would, you know, tease me about or whatever because I was just different or whatever when I was in middle school and even high school. And so I kind of like pulled from real experiences like that. But no, there wasn't like a thing where like a white kid got a bloody nose and like that's like like me like pushing something to an extreme. But I just thought it would be like a great way to get him into a problem so that you know, it would reach like his parents and then they would have to talk, you know. But those are very real. Like I mean I was like in fights and things like that where things escalated to a degree where like everybody's parents were involved and things like that. So I've definitely been like in trouble a lot. Like I had like a lot of behavioral problems when I was middle school, elementary school, so I was in trouble all the time. And so that is based on that. Some of that is like in retrospect, it's probably related to having ADHD and stuff like that. But like at that time, like nobody was really thinking about it like that. And so it was just like, I was just like sometimes disruptive in class or even getting into fights with people or whatever. Like so that is very like based on real experiences that I had, but sort of fictionalized for this movie. But I think people like later were like surprised, like, oh, you used to get into fights and stuff. I feel like it was a different world in there where
it was low stakes fights.
Yeah, I mean there were some bad things that happened, but I mean there was a lot of like in Islamic school there was at least in my class there were a lot of long-standing grudges between people that did end up in fights that looking back was really bad, but at the time it just felt like I don't know. It's hard to explain because, you know, you have a class of like 10 to 15 kids who go like year to year with each other. So it's really small. And so if there's like bullying, it does.
There's beef. it's
it becomes
magnified.
like
It doesn't have a chance to disperse.
no, yeah, there's like
It
only
carries
like a
throughout
few
the year.
kids.
You're in the same cohort,
Yes.
right? And then you
Yeah.
get these. So my daughter is in Islamic school, a very progressive one.
Yeah,
But we have those kind of discussions that if one kid becomes the target,
yeah, it's
in
hard
any
to
it's very hard, right? And that's, I would say, the darker side of
a
Islamic
small
schools, like
school.
even a
Yeah,
private school, but even
yeah,
with
Yeah.
Islamic schools, they're even smaller than a regular private school, right?
yeah,
That people don't like to talk about, but we need to have these conversations.
yeah. So anyway,
sure.
that's without going into all of that, which I feel like I've already gone into. A lot of like just that situation of getting into a fight and then getting in trouble with your parents and then like all that. I was like, I lived that life, so it wasn't hard to conceive of that kind of
Pull from
stuff.
that,
It was
yeah.
just like stuff I lived through.
I did identify very strongly with that scene because the one physical altercation that I've been in, and I was like one of those good nerdy students, and I didn't even get into trouble for it because I was the good nerdy student, was that I got into a fight over, like, not specifically my mustache, but the kid had been teasing me about my mustache, and then he teased me about something else, and I was also in 8th grade. Then so
Whoa,
we
that's
punched
close
him.
to home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. When I watched the scene, my husband knows this story. He was like, "Homa, that's you," and I was like, "Shut up! Yeah, I know it's me." Right?
That's
amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that one, I was like, "Oh, this
No,
this
I think
happens."
everybody has like experiences in their lives that are like similar to just like being teased for being different and like that.
Yeah.
I think is universal. Like it doesn't matter what school you go to or what situation you're in. I think that's how kids are. So
Yeah. Well, I know we're at the end of our time. So thank you so much for speaking with us and congratulations. This is an awesome movie.
Congratulations.
It turned out so amazing. I've been kind of like watching it over the years and waiting till I could see it. And it was just amazing to see it. And congratulations again.
thank you, and I'm so glad you got to finally see it. And yeah, for those of you listening, it's available on all VOD platforms.
Yes.
So yeah, you can rent it and you can buy it, and reach out. My Instagram handle is Imran J Khan, and the film's Instagram is mustache_movie. And reach out if you watch the film and you want to talk about it. Shoot me a message and tell me what you thought of the film. I love hearing about people's reactions to the film. It's like one of the joys of making a film is just hearing people's reactions. So yeah. I'm excited for everybody who's listening to this podcast to check the movie out.
Yes, please do. Like Imran said, you can find it on all platforms. We watched it on Prime. I know it's available elsewhere. And you can find us at Chai After Dark. Send us a message on Instagram and at chaiafterdark@chaiafterdark.com. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.